Gender identity lessons may soon be taught in elementary school classrooms in Minnesota as a draft of new health-related academic standards is making waves across the state. Next. A longtime Minnesota teacher is my guest. She is a licensed K through 12 health educator. She's asked that we not reveal her identity due to potential backlash, but we're going to call her Sam and want to thank you, Sam, for being here given this unfortunate situation.
Thank you, Liz. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my opinion.
Here's the story. The Minnesota Department of Education has given parents a deadline of July 18th to comment on the latest proposal for health academic standards. These include teaching third graders, so these are 8 or 9-year-old children, to understand gender identity. If the proposed standards take effect, third grade students will be expected to explain the difference between sex assigned at birth and gender identity and expression. So as a professional educator and health teacher, talk about your initial reaction, Sam, when you heard about these proposed changes.
I think it is way beyond the scope of their ability to understand. These are kids who struggle with naming body parts in their technical scientific names at all. And that is also part of the standard, which is wonderful. I mean, that's a um, biological fact. They need to understand proper names, but high school students have a problem memorizing all of the biological mechanical parts involved in reproduction, and we're expecting third graders to do it now. I mean, it's way too complicated, and it's not necessary.
It sounds like you've been bothered by this for quite some time. I know in your experience, you've had to deal with boy-girl gender issues in your classroom before. This also happened when a school administrator, right, was observing your classroom. Tell us more about that and what the administrator told you at that time.
So I was teaching science to kindergartners a few years ago, and I had an administrator doing one of my observations. These are kindergartners. It's early in the school year. I had their science workbooks on the tables to make things quickly because I had 55 minutes with these kids one time a week for science. So time is of the essence. And I separated their workbooks. On one table was the boys and the other table was the girls. I thought the lesson went okay. And in meeting with the administrator the next day to go over how my observation went, I was dressed down, rather significantly criticized for separating the workbooks on boys on one table and girls on the other. And I was specifically told in no uncertain terms that is not something this district does. We do not separate by gender. We are not to address the children as boys and girls. They are to be addressed as students or friends, but you never address children by gender.
Yeah, I think that is a shocking story for anyone. You're talking about kindergartners here, but I know you also had an assignment teaching fifth graders at a school with genderless bathrooms, which I might add have become very common now all across Minnesota. You were teaching a lesson about civics in this case, how bills become laws, but then something very telling happened, right?
Yeah, so in the fifth grade classroom, and again, I would have these students one time a week for 55 minutes. And so I had several different classrooms of fifth graders, and the lesson at the very end of the year was how a bill becomes a law. And so, as a microcosm of this process, I had groups of students working together to craft a bill that they were going to bring to administration. And all of the bathrooms in each of the classroom wings were 6 stall genderless bathrooms. And, I guess it should have been okay. And I think they were doing this, to make things back quick when you take a classroom to the bathroom. It's just whatever student goes in is, to make it fast. Well, the kids hated it. Um, Especially the fourth and fifth grade students hated it because they didn't like having to share their bathrooms with the other gender especially when they're starting to develop. Nearly every group from these fifth grade classrooms, their bills centered around making the unisex bathrooms into gendered bathrooms. They wanted boy bathrooms and girl bathrooms specific. They wanted the privacy, they wanted the cleanliness, they wanted what we've known for years and years and years, that this is what's normal and this is what children prefer, is simplicity. Out of the mouths of babes, that's what they want.
The proposed standards, I know, include several changes. One of them, just to highlight what MDE plans to expect from third graders, includes asking them to describe internal and external reproductive body parts using medically accurate terms in a gender-neutral way. Have you heard from other Minnesota teachers? Where are they on this? I can't imagine they agree with this, or are they just too scared to speak out?
Here's what I don't get. Minnesota keeps track of all health teachers' licensure. And so if they wanted different opinions on this, they could easily contact every Minnesota, licensed health teacher. I never got, there's been no reaching out to me or any other health teacher that I'm aware of. But I have talked to several of us, and I don't believe that the talk back time, July 18th, boy, it's not a lot of time for feedback. They seem to be in a big hurry to get this pushed through. As far as the standard itself in third grade, I don't have a problem with kids knowing their body parts or the body parts of others. I think that's great. We're teaching children appropriate anatomic medical information. The problem is we're teaching them doing it by genderless terms. There are genders. There is a difference. And I have a problem with, the terms of chest feeding with pregnant people. That doesn't happen in nature. That doesn't happen with puppies and with kittens, with chickens and cows. There are male and female, and we need to not confuse children.
Yeah, what the MDE hopes to accomplish here seems difficult, I think, for any of us to understand. But do want to remind folks, the MDE has requested feedback from Minnesotans on this latest draft of health standards. Be sure to speak up. Let the state know what you think about the proposed standards before it is too late. The deadline, again, July 18th. But thank you, Sam, for speaking out on this. I know you're not alone as a Minnesota educator. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That will do it for this episode of Liz Collin Reports. We'll see you next time.